All right. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you for joining Charlotte M. Watson on Girl Talk. Please remember today we have a very, very special group of guys joining us, but I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to join in on the conversation as well. So if you have any questions or comments that you would like to make, please text them to 214-475-0042. Again, that number that you can text any of your questions is 214-475-0042. Now, you guys, you all know that I'm a little technology challenged, so please do not send them through Messenger, because then I'm gonna have to try to maneuver and figure out how to get to Messenger without messing up these guys on the screen. So if you would do me a favor and just text them to 214-475-0042, and we will get your questions answered. Also, if you have not, be sure to go to my authors page and like us there at charlottemwatson.com, as well as Twitter, CMWatt3, and on Facebook, Charlotte M. Watson as well. So again, we have an awesome group of individuals who are lined up for us today. I believe that you will gain lots of information, particularly, and this is not, I don't want it to appear that I'm just targeting Black folks on here, but again, all lives matter, but all lives are not the ones that's being targeted right now. And so I share with people when I'm talking that I have too many relatives in my family who wear that badge. From my brother, I have uncles and cousins, and, so I can't say that I don't back the blue. Their lives matter too. I want them to come home every single day. So if you would, let me introduce my panel, and I'm going to let them talk to you a little bit about what they are and the background that they bring. Commonly, they all have Black sons. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So my first guest is Marvis Mosley. My second guest is Timothy Darrow. And my third guest is Anthony Brookins. Hello, guys. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Anthony, Officer Anthony, you doing okay?
I'm doing great.
Good. Mr. Darrow, you doing all right?
Better than I deserve.
Better than you deserve. All right. That sounds like a preacher. Something a preacher would say. Well, let's just start the conversation. Let's jump right in. Marvis, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the background that you bring to the table?
Okay. Well, I am, first of all, the father of two Black sons, of course. Law enforcement experience span almost 20 years, with my last assignment as a police chief at Mountain View College. Beyond that, my training goes with field training officer, police instructor, police firearms instructor, as well as military background as a United States Marine. And beyond that, I now teach. I teach in Dallas ISD, forensic science, and I also teach a criminal justice course as well. Have a little bit of background in teaching at El Centro College, but as far as that's pretty much me, as far as my background and a little bit about me.
Wonderful. Officer Anthony?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about you.
Sure will. My name is Anthony Brooks. I have 20 years training in law enforcement. That's with the Sheriff's Department and also with the Police Department. Also military training in the Marine Corps. And I have 4 sons, which are all grown. And my training in law enforcement, gun range officer and a field training officer, SWAT team leader and commander, and also field training commander also. I was over the entire field training. And that's pretty much it right now. I'm retired.
Wow. Well, yeah, you should. Hey, you've done a lot. You have protected and served well. Thank you for your service, and both of you, well, actually all three of you for your military service. So yeah, thank you. Timothy, tell us about
Timothy
you.
Dara. Hey, Timothy Dara. Military background, U.S. Army National Guard as well. Law enforcement training from corrections to police with Fort Worth Police Department, the hospital division, as well as Watauga Police Department, and currently a crisis management specialist with Watauga Police Department. I have one birth son. I have a youth sports organization where I could say I have about 250 sons because I am very influential in their schooling as well as their personal lives, them as well as their parents, brothers, sisters, cousins, everybody. We are that involved in the community, which allows us access to them on an unlimited basis.
Wow. Well, first of all, again, thank you guys for your service to the United States. I appreciate that. I appreciate you all for your involvement in making a difference in what's going on in the world. So one thing that I noticed with all of you all, you have all had some hand in training, in the field training of officers. In light of what's going on, what's going wrong? What is wrong with this? Are these officers trained? Are they trained to shoot to kill? Are they trained to, and I get it, they're trying to get home just like the next person. But, talk to me about that.
Okay, well, all right. So as I would say a firearms instructor for a time, I would say you may have different factors. It's a level of force. So depending on the level of force, that if deadly force is necessary, then you as a police officer, you are, you must take the necessary force, which I would say deadly force, to protect yourself and the lives of others. So if a person has, I'm just gonna say if a person has a gun and is pointing a gun at me or my partner or anyone else, an innocent third person, then yes, that is a point where I would say deadly force is justified. I would never say deadly force is justified if a person is clear that a person does not have a weapon or is not causing bodily harm, deadly bodily harm, I guess I would say. So when I taught law enforcement officers, I didn't teach leg shots, okay? We didn't teach arm shots. We just didn't. That's not how you teach in, we taught upper torso shots, center mass shots, center mass. And if necessary, if a suspect had body armor on, you may have to shoot for the head, take an upper head shot in order to stop that deadly encounter. So yes, the amount of resistance, if a person appears to me to try to take my life as a cop, then yes, I'm going to use deadly force, or I would have used deadly force to protect myself or innocent third person. So there are no more, I don't know about this, the warning shots are done and no arm shots and leg shots. We shoot center mass or if necessary, a headshot if the person is wearing body armor.
Here's something that has been interesting to me as I'm watching some of these incidents unfold, and even just the protest, watching the protests, they're using rubber bullets.
Mm-hmm.
So can we not use rubber bullets instead of just shooting these people dead in the street?
Actually.
There you go. We hear you, Anthony.
You were asking, could we use them? You're talking about on scene, on call,
mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that less lethal is part of the use of force continuum, yes, they can be used. You can use rubber bullets if necessary on a call. I mean, most officers in most departments don't carry a weapon that has rubber bullets in it, though. That's one of the things too. I mean, mostly it's going to be a handgun, ASP, and mace, and taser, and that's most of what you're wearing on your hips. Most officers are going to jump out the car with a shotgun that has rubber bullets in it. Most time that's a shotgun, and that can be used. That is something to think about for departments. That is something to think about. But most of the time, you jump out of a vehicle, you don't have that in your hand. It's you and a handgun, those other small things that help you do your day-to-day job.
Right. But I know, I remember, and this hasn't been a recent occurrence, but there was a situation that I believe some officers were called to a house where a gentleman had barricaded himself inside of his home. And, you know, he came out of the house eventually, but, you know, they, instead of just making sure he was disarmed. And I guess my question is that the only option, just shoot to kill? I mean,
No.
I know they're not, you know, don't shoot in the arm. You're told to shoot in the upper torso. But what are some other things that can be done that we're not always the target? We're not the bullseye all the time.
Right.
Teaching is the main thing. But a lot of times what civilians don't understand is there is a level of fear that comes along with being an officer, that it also comes along with being a person.
Gotcha.
There's a fear and a desire to get home to my family that disallows me from overwhelmingly trusting the fact that your weapon is a BB gun or it's a pellet gun. So if it's a matter of deploying a weapon, I'm going to deploy my weapon in a way that allows me to stay safe at the end of the day. If it means your safety isn't as
important as mine. Yeah, I get it.
Right. They make weapons in bulk. They make weapons in bulk. So I mean, from my experience, when people used to say, "Well, how are you so comfortable working in a prison?" But you say you're terrified to pull up on a traffic stop. Well, on a traffic stop, I don't really know what's in that vehicle. In a prison, chances are you got to get a whole lot closer than you have to do to do harm to me than you would have to do
that makes sense.
on Rosedale Street.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But again, to answer your question fully, training and a confidence in the training is important. We have to understand as officers or even as civilians, the fear factor disallows you from saying, boy, if I was in that situation, I'd do this.
Yeah.
You can't really say that until you've been in that situation.
Right. Right.
You know,
right.
The flow of dopamine, the flow of adrenaline changes how well you process your idea of what is and should be.
So what are your thoughts on George Floyd? When you saw that video, what was the first thing that went through your mind? It was, everybody in the world was watching it. It was casually, in my opinion, casually and arrogantly done. What was your thought as an officer? And what was your thought as an African-American Black man watching this murder take place on television?
First, it was shock. It was actually shock first, from seeing it from both perspectives, the police officer and an African-American male. Then, and I'll be real with you, I'll just keep it real. I became pissed off. And when I say pissed off or upset, it's because, no, I didn't know what happened before that particular filming or that incident. And as a police officer, you have to know, how did it escalate to that level? But I do know in my heart, as a police officer and the training I've had, it wouldn't have got to that level where I had to sit 8 minutes and 26 seconds on his neck with my knees, knowing that I've been trained to do wrist locks, finger locks, arm locks, or sometimes we call it our utility belt. Something on my belt could have got Mr. Floyd off that ground, and we wouldn't have to go any further than what they went. We would have ended that real quick. Handcuff him, so take him into custody, handcuff him, standing up, let's go.
Yeah.
That level right there was enough. But what they did was appalling. I mean, actually, it made me question what I did for 20 years. It made me question other people that were around me when I did see officers afraid. And not saying that at that very moment, I'm telling you, as a police officer, you have to make a decision right then. There's no, I got a minute to think, I got 2 minutes to think. It's nothing like that. Let me read this before I touch this man. You don't have time at that time to make the decision. You have to make a decision. You gonna live or he's gonna live. We're gonna both get out this together. All of that is going through your head. Nothing warranted him to put his knee on that man's neck for that long, because it turned into hatred after that.
Yeah, you can look at his eyes.
He wasn't arresting them, protecting himself or protecting a citizen's life. He wasn't doing that. It turned into hatred.
The man was handcuffed.
He
wasn't struggling.
You can't control the person in handcuffs. You need to turn your badge in.
What you're saying, but what we're talking about here is fear. I heard fear. Okay. And then I look at escalation. Police officers are taught to escalate one step above the aggression of the person. We're taught that way. So what happens is, once that level of aggression has been subdued, once that person is subdued, that person is no longer fighting, that person is no longer resisting arrest, then each officer, your responsibility is time to back down. It's time to come down. We don't continue to sit on your neck or straddle you after you have, you're yelling, I can't breathe, after you're calling for your mom, and then to see that officer's eyes. I looked at his eyes and I said something that went totally wrong, because he appeared to enjoy. It seemed like he started to enjoy sitting on that man's neck. But I just think at the level where the aggression, if he was resisting arrest, because we don't know the whole situation. So I did that. I didn't want to jump right in and say, oh, they shouldn't have did that, because like Tim said earlier, until you have been in that situation, you want to be careful about quarterbacking. You want to, be careful about that. Now, once you get in a situation like that, once that aggression is stopped, you have a responsibility as an officer to get off of his neck or to get off of his back. I'm not saying, I've never been taught that. I've never been taught to sit my knee on someone's neck. I have never been taught that tactic, but I have used my knee on a person's back in order to assist with effecting arrest. Yes, I have. So once we had the person handcuffed, we set them up, or we stood them up, or we put them in the car, or we gave them medical treatment. That is what our job consists of, or when my job was, I'm saying. So I didn't think what they did was right. I'm in agreement with Brooks there. So, but I think once that level of aggression has stopped, it's the duty of that officer to stop that level of force. There's no need for that anymore. At some point, you got to let him up to check to see, can he really breathe? What's going on?
So here's I'm sorry, go ahead, Tim.
From my perspective, I think appalled, the whole pissed off, all of that is accurate. But I saw something that it sort of resembled what we call a God complex, idea of I'm in charge, I can do this, there's nothing you can do about it. And if you do any investigation into this guy's rap sheet of 18 infractions, rightfully so, he knows, I've got bodies on me. I've gotten away with it. There's nothing that you're gonna do, say, feel, report that's gonna cost me.
Right.
Until now. I had a problem. One of the first things I saw, and it may be my levels of OCD, what type of officer wears his badge sideways? You don't do that. You don't do that. You're not going to
wrong with him from the beginning, huh?
Yeah.
You woke up messed up.
Yeah.
You left the
Let me
house.
put your
what we call
clothes on
ate up.
right.
Yes, you were ate up when you left the house.
Right.
You don't when you put on that uniform, when you don that uniform, you don that badge. It's a level of representation that disallows you from looking less than respectable. Nobody's gonna respect that guy, and he's probably, I would imagine, if this is me speaking in my folly, he's a nobody everywhere else until he puts on that badge.
Yeah.
This badge gives me relevance. This badge gives me power. This badge makes me say, the black dude that had all the cool girls, I mean, that was cool and had all the girls in school, you remind me of him. So now I get to exert my power and my force by putting my knee on your throat.
Oh yeah.
Right. And George Floyd, they hadn't talked a lot about his girlfriend / fiance, but she was white.
Mm-hmm.
And so that could have added to that. You know, here this black dude is who's got this white girl. So I'm already upset about that. And they knew each other. They knew each other. They had crossed paths. So here's the question that is now coming up. So we know that the other officers watching the offense did not render aid, but now they're questioning whether the people who were filming this should something happen to them. Now, I remember in the video several times there was another black guy that tried to walk up to them and say something, you know, try to encourage him, hey, get off of him. He's not, you know, he's not moving. And the Derek Chauvin pulled out his mace to mace the guy. So, you know, how could they have intervened? I mean, they're another black man too. I mean, so they would have been shot or killed or, you know, or something. So can that even stick?
Let's be real. We know what we're living in. We know what time we're living in. No, I have never seen a civilian run up on a police officer that's conducting his business, tackle him and put him under arrest or take him into custody.
Right.
I wouldn't even suggest a person do that.
No.
I'm a cop. If I'm standing on the sideline and I'm wrestling with a cat, and my aggression and all my attention is pointing directly at him. I don't know who you are, what you are grabbing me from behind. And I'm saying this from a black man's point of view. I don't know who you are, and I'm gonna react.
Mm-hmm.
Just like they see they already wrestling with another black man, and another one jumps in on him to try to stop him. Oh, believe me, dude, it'll shot everybody around there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I wouldn't suggest doing it.
Yeah, I don't even do that. That's not smart.
We wish we could, but that's not good advice.
No. I mean,
so what do you got? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, we're in the age of cameras, video cameras, and that is the best thing that you have, I guess, tool for us to use is a video camera. Even myself, when I've been stopped by the police, I make sure my own phone is on, or I make sure I call my wife and say, hey, listen in on this conversation. Why? Because that's also my life too. But I would encourage anybody, do not interfere with a police officer while he is conducting his business in a traffic stop, in a grocery store, whatever it may be. Do not interfere in their job, because it's almost like tunnel vision. When you're focusing on that person or that individual, that's who I'm focusing on. So when I have other people coming in, then you don't know how I'm going to respond. And you're going to have to decide with the officer on that. I wouldn't tell anybody, don't do that.
No.
So, Anthony, you have 4 boys.
Yes.
Marvis, you have 2 boys.
Mm-hmm.
Timothy, you have 1 biological and 250 others. What are you all telling your sons? What are you telling these boys? They're graduating, they're still in school. Marvis, yours is driving now. So what are you telling your sons as they are now having to and will be moving around without you? You know, what do you tell them?
I have a lot of conversations. Because of my background in law enforcement, I tell my sons, first of all, the traffic stop is not the time for you to have a disagreement with the police officer.
Amen.
You may not agree with the fact that you were speeding, but that is not the time for you to disagree. Unfortunately, and I'm saying it just like that, because you are Black, okay, because you are a Black male, you do not have that luxury to say, but officer, you get me? You don't have that luxury. I wasn't speeding. I believe that I was only doing 20 in a, and then that's when you see that an officer come back with that aggressiveness. Okay, what are you saying? Or what is that? So you have just heightened. At this point, I tell my son, do not argue at that point. If you disagree with the ticket, you sign it on the back that you're willing to go to court. And you go ahead and proceed with going to court. On the traffic stop is not the time for you to have a fight with the officer. You're not going to win. You're not going to win, because I just told y'all he or she is taught to stay one level above in their use of force tactics. That is how we were taught. So you yell at me, I'm going to yell back at you, and pretty soon I'm going to say, we have a disagreement, go ahead and step out the car. Because this is not the time for you to disagree with my ticket. Either sign it or move on. If you don't sign it, automatically you can be taken to jail for just refusing to sign. So
Wow.
I have that. I tell my sons, do not argue with that. I pray for them. Hopefully they don't have any encounter like that, because I've experienced that, believe it or not, even as a police chief.
Yeah.
When I was a chief, I experienced that. I asked an officer on a traffic stop. He told me that I was speeding in a local area, one of our local cities. And I told him I didn't think I was. And he told me immediately, so are you calling me a liar? So I told him, no, I wasn't calling you a liar. I just disagree with the fact that you said I was going 35 over the posted speed limit. Guys, that went to a whole nother level, just simply because I questioned that police as a Black man. Now, mind you, I'm in uniform. And this officer, this motor jock, he's a motorcycle officer, also in uniform, of course, because he the one stopped me. So we had this issue. We had that issue, and I went back and forth with him because he then became disrespectful to me. And we went to a whole nother level. But I'm going to tell anybody today, do not argue with these police officers on traffic stops.
That's right. And it's correct. With my sons, I have 4 sons. I have 2 in the military and the Air Force, 21 and 22. I also have a 26-year-old business owner. And I have a 14-year-old, 15-year-old in high school. And we talk all the time, like Moses said, due to my background, my training. And I simply tell them, when they're in action with police, survive the interaction. Survive to be able to talk about it later. Survive to be able to do write up if you have to, if it's one necessary. Be polite to the officer when you come in contact with him, whether you're at home or you're in a vehicle. The answer his questions, do what you have to do, sign the citation, and keep moving.
Yeah.
Like Moses said, that traffic stop is not the time to go back and forth and fight your ticket, because there's not the court. I want my kids to come home every night, just like you do. You want all your boys to come home every night. And we even have these talks with our football teams. We put them in groups and have officers come talk to them and tell them, how do you interact with police? Hey, simply be calm down, first of all.
Yep.
Relax, speak. When you speak, articulate what, and everything. And when he's telling you what you need to do it. Turn your lights on at nighttime when that officer approaches that car. Put your hands on the steering wheel where he can see them.
That's
do
right.
what you have to do to get out of the traffic stop and get back to your home. Because you can fight. It's another day to fight.
Yeah.
And you can't fight on that ground dead. So don't those ignorant interactions, don't do those. Don't do that on the side of the road. Court, you don't do that. Survive the interaction and come home safe.
Tim, you have anything to add to that?
Just an echoing of it all. The main point would be, again, to survive it. You don't have to. I mean, there's a saying that says everything lawful is an expedient, which means just because it may be the right thing to say doesn't necessarily mean it's the right time to say.
Right.
So if you can choose appropriation is the difference between a comedian and a not so nice guy. You know, it's making a joke at the right time or making an argument at the right time is the difference between professional and amateur. So if your life matters that much, and if you are right, then the burden of proof is on you.
Mm-hmm.
Prove it in court. You're not going to win. You're not going to win on the side of the street. You're not going to win in the midst of a stop. And if you think and a lot of times it could be taken as the wrong way, but if you know you're right, don't answer any questions, just follow all the commands.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. We don't need to have a conversation. I need your license and proof of insurance.
There you go.
Where are you
Wow.
going?
Mm-hmm.
I don't answer questions.
Yeah, because it's irrelevant.
I don't
So-
answer questions.
So by not answering the question though, does that not aggravate the officer to now take it to another level?
Charlotte, we not talking about. I don't care about your aggravation. I mean, what these officers got to understand also is your ego needs to stay at home. I don't care about the fact that you don't like that I don't want to answer your question. I don't have to answer your question. What you stopped me for was speeding. Now, when you come to my car and you say, man, the reason why I stopped you is for speeding. Okay, where are you going? That's not the point. Where I'm going is not the point. I just need you to tell me what you're going to do. Do you need me to give you the license, the insurance, or what you want? Once I hand that to you, then you go ahead and you can either write your ticket or we can sit here and stare at each other or whatever you want to do. I don't have to answer the rest of that. Those questions may be investigatory type questions. Understand?
Yes.
We're investigating.
They are
When
100%.
you start talking, now you have given me, as the officer, more information. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, if you are that intoxicated person, I now smell your breath even more because you started talking. You get what I'm saying? Or maybe you weren't swerving, but I smell it now coming out of the car. So now I'm going to take it to the next level. Please step out. So yeah, I don't want, be I tell officers, if you're in control, you're in control. That's what I tell officers. You don't have to show me that person that you're in control. If you're the police, you are already in control. I just need you to maintain your control. Handle that traffic stop and let's go home. If that person says something to you, because I worked in Capel Police where they will, Capel area where they will question the police officers. Okay, unlike Lancaster, where you have to be a little bit careful. Okay, so then you have to, it's differences in dealing with and interacting with different citizens in different areas. So that's also something to consider too.
Right.
But yeah, you don't have to tell an officer where you're going and
Never
how
do
you've been
that.
there. And
I thought if they asked me a question, I had to answer them, even though I'm following the commands, because I just assumed that it would get,
Okay, well,
then that's an issue because you're not answering my question. You're not.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna.
At 2:00 in the morning, you coming from Bible study. Okay. At 1:00 in the morning, where you coming from? Bible study. Well, there's no Bible study at 1:00 in the morning. Well, maybe for you it's not. So I have Bible study at 1:00 in the morning. I don't know about you. So what I'm saying, Charlotte, is those are what we call investigatory type questions. I'm asking you questions to see what I can learn from you, your whereabouts, where you're going, where you're coming from. But technically, the probable cause for the stop was merely the speeding or the registration or the I saw you swerving in the road. Once I made that stop, that was the reason why we stopped. Now the rest you're gonna give me because you're gonna start talking.
right. Every policeman I have ever been stopped by, that's the first question they ask. Where are you going? Or either where are you coming from? Where are you going or where are you coming from?
Going to confession. There you go.
Wow. Son of a biscuit.
Now the honest is on the at that point, and I will tell anybody that I'm mentoring or speaking to regarding this issue, you can't be dirty now.
Yeah.
Now, if your license is expired or your registration is out,
you've been smoking.
You answer any question they ask. But if you are a law-abiding citizen that may have made a traffic infraction, you could be reaching for something and you swerved a little bit. If you know you're not drunk, you know your license is good, everything is up to par, you're handling your part as a responsible citizen, you don't have to answer any questions. I do not answer question can be your response.
Yep, all day long.
Wow.
Mhm. And then there you go. It goes back to the probable cause for the stop.
Mhm.
Probable cause for the stop. And it could have been the reasonable suspicion that led up to it. You were just driving around in the area, you seemed suspicious.
Yeah.
That officer should tell you that. They are supposed to tell you why they stopped you.
Mhm.
Why he's talking.
Now I can't, whether or not they lying or not, Charlotte, that's a whole nother topic of concern.
Right.
Yes, it is.
It could be some lies. I stopped you because your car matched the description of another car.
Yeah, that could happen.
Arlen, you're pretty. You're gonna get pulled over because you're pretty.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah. Hey, we'll get you one.
Hey, let me see her up close.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. So you're
Wow.
not ever get
That's
the
crazy.
Mm-mm.
That is crazy.
It's great.
Wow. So I remember, conversations that Papa would have with the boys and stuff, and making sure your hands are on the steering wheel, and making sure that that you're not dirty. You do what you're supposed to do, and just kind of just basically follow the law. So what now? I know, Tim, and this is something that you have been involved in an biracial relationship. So what are you telling your sons about interracial dating? Are you having those kinds of conversations? Because that's that's a concern that our kids, especially your kid, our family, we see color, but we see people first. We see people. So if that's who you have chosen to have a relationship with, hey, we're gonna love that person into the family, and it is what it is. But we are hearing horror stories of just relationships going bad just because these relationships that are not that don't look alike. And so the families are not you two may be okay, but your families are not, or the kids are now biracial, and now they are having to go through some really hard times in schools and with kids and things, because everybody's not nice. And we understand that the kids get it from home, but at the end of the day, they still have to deal with it. What are you guys telling your children about interracial dating?
For me, it's been a matter of, it's always been a matter of being aware. I don't care if it's, I don't care what
Right.
the ethnic background of who you choose to date is. What I want you to be is aware of how you present yourself, aware of how you address any situation. And in the direct instance of a interracial relationship, be aware of the scrutiny that comes along with dating someone outside of your race. Like you said, everybody is not nice. Everybody isn't going to understand. However, the choices that you make are just, they're subject to an opinion once you are in the open with it. So with my kids, it doesn't matter who they're dating. If you got a boyfriend or a girlfriend, I need to meet the parents. I want to know. I want to know how crazy they are about their children, because I need them to know how crazy I am about mine. So, and again, when you talk about the interracial relationships, just the understanding with mine, hey, you don't always get to pick and choose who you fall in love with. However, you do get to pick and choose how much disrespect you're willing to take. And if a point that you feel as though your status or isn't appreciated, then you are at liberty to disenfranchise yourself from that person. Not so much the race, however, that situation, so that you can be seen as the royalty that we live ourselves as.
Right. Right.
I think with these millennials, it's no telling what you may get as far as who they may date. My sons, I don't put a restriction on who they date. If they like a girl from a different race, I don't have a problem with that. But understand how you are perceived, I think, is also the perception. Not everybody, like Tim said, not everybody accepts interracial relationships. And even I believe it's different. There's two sides. A interracial relationship where a man is with a female, a white female, may be viewed differently than a black female who is with a white man. So there are differences in how that's viewed too. The African American community, I believe, look at the black female as if, okay, what are you doing? You know, like, why did you step out of bounds like that? What happened? What brother made you mad? Or whatever the case may be. But the way we look at a black male dating a white female is, it's like acceptable, or it's a little bit more accepted than it is the opposite. The way it is vice versa is what I'm saying. And so I don't have a daughter, but in my case with my sons, I would accept them either way. Just be careful. And like Tim say, I want to meet the parents. And sometimes as parents, we get that intuition and it just don't seem right. So once we meet the parents and you had an intuition, like, I don't know about that, you may want to stay away or whatever. So, but as far as me, I don't discourage it. I just say, be careful.
I know that we have lost a lot of African-American young men to the system because of them being falsely accused. They're with this young white girl, and let's be honest, they have consensual intercourse. Dad finds out, and all of a sudden he raped me. He forced me. So are those conversations being had?
Yeah, you have to, Charlotte. You got to have them.
Those, but they work both ways. Anybody can say it, and no matter what color they are, they can say
and that's true.
Absolutely.
And
that is
as far
true.
as I'm not, like, when we were coming up, boy, don't you bring that white girl home? Yes, I heard that.
Yeah.
But now we're a little bit more lenient.
Yeah.
We allow our kids to, stay wings a little bit different than we did. Now I do say, hey, be careful. You're in this building, you're making good money. You're traveling around this world. Be careful when you bring Becky in with you. I don't know Becky's motives. And just, I know you love is love. In our family, like you said, we don't see black and white. If you bring them home and you love them, we love them too. But it will be a conversation in the corner on the break. Be careful with Becky. Watch your back. Make sure you know what you're doing, know what you're getting involved with. I mean, yes, we can love whoever we want to love, but sometimes you have to question that things do happen.
Right.
You ride in the car, lady. I'm riding to Capel, Texas. It's me and Becky. It's 2 a.m. I guarantee it's a cop gonna stop you because he saw you riding with Becky. That's sad to say in 2020, but it will be a cop that stop you for that. That's what's sad about it. Right. We may see differently, but not everybody in law enforcement does.
Right.
I think it's really important that we, as parents, we create open dialogue with our children about their relationships. Because not that we're going to condone promiscuity, but however, if a child is made, if I make my son feel like he has to sneak to have a relationship or sneak to be involved with somebody, he's going to do that and then take it to the next level. Not understanding that you sneaking out of the house to Becky's dad's house because I'm not allowing you to have open relationship. Now I'm subjecting you to Becky's dad's understanding or hatred, and you being disrespectful. And not just interracially. I think, again, it's majorly important that we are involved with what they're involved in. Otherwise,
Exactly.
I know for me, the majority of the times I got into things that I couldn't get myself out of is because there was either nobody there to tell me different or nobody there that I respected enough to listen to.
Mm.
So if we as parents create ourselves as so untouchable, we're so righteous, so upstanding, so I don't make mistakes anymore because I'm an adult and I said so, as opposed to help me understand your thinking here.
Right.
Help me understand, okay, where do you see this? What is your plan? With my sons, anybody that they're quote unquote dating, you need to tell me when you've met that parent. You're going to somebody's, I'm going too. I'm going. You bringing somebody to my house, does her parent know? Where's her mom? Where's her dad? Do they know that they're here?
Mm.
I'm not just going to take your word for it. I want to have a conversation with them because now you understand, again, in a situation where their decision making is questionable, it's not just a matter of adolescents making decisions. There's an adult involved.
Right.
So you're not going to take advantage of my son, be it black, white, Hispanic, or Asian.
Mm.
I mean, the fact of the matter is you understand that there is a backing to him that disallows for your hatred, your irrationale to become relevant in our lives.
Whoops. Sorry.
Yep,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, guys.
I don't. My sons, if they bring a person home, then yes, we want to know. We want to know about their parents. Do their parents know that she's here, or do their parents know? Where are you going? I want to go over such house, and then we have to talk to parents. You just do that to make sure that your kids are safe. I care about my son just like you care about your daughter.
That's right.
So yes, I'm going to make sure I know you, who you are, and have at least talked to you to make sure that and verify things are, like they say, on the up and up, that she said I can come over. And if, we're talking about interracial, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter to me what it is. I'm still going to do the same thing for either girl, because I don't know, these kids, it's no telling who they may date nowadays.
And that's true. That is so true. And I think the biggest thing that I'm hearing consistently with all three of you is communication.
Yeah.
We have to go back to the basic. I mean, we really do. We have gotten, I think we have, we strive so hard to give our kids what we didn't have that we have forgotten to give them some things that we did have. And our parents knew where we were.
Yeah.
They knew where we were. We had curfews, and so you don't own anything in this house, so that's my door, so you leave it open. And so we don't, we're living in a very different time where mothers are younger and fathers are younger. And so we don't always get that we had. And so because of that, children are making decisions, adult decisions on their own, without having communication, without being able to talk to anybody. And Tim, kudos to you, because sometimes I realize that those kids come to you because they don't have anybody else. Football is their outlet. That is their only thing. That's the, if they're either on the football field with you, or they're in the street gangbanging, or being influenced by others to do other things that will end up in the court system. So kudos to you for taking the time to do that. We need more men to do that. If every man, black, white, it doesn't matter. If every man would take and mentor another child, another male, we could change this whole dynamics.
Yes.
But we got to be willing to invest some time and some energy into it. So this is my final question, and it's 7:45, and I want to pick your brain and get your feel of this, because I'm hearing it more and more when we have another question. So I will ask this question in just a moment as well. When you hear people say Black Lives Matter, and then you hear, the protests and all of the other side of these individuals who say, no, Black lives don't matter, all lives matter. Tell me what your thought is on that.
Anybody?
Huh?
Tim is still breathing. He's still taking it in.
He's trying to take it in. I see some disconnect there, Charlotte. Anytime a person says that all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter movement right now, right at this point, there's a disconnect. That person they don't fully understand why this movement has come about. And I think that's part of it. When I hear that person respond, I, like Tim, have to take a breath, because I want to make sure that I don't escalate that situation, because that may start an argument may ensue, and I don't want that. So I realized right away that person is disconnected. They don't realize why the protests are happening. They don't understand why we have shown several and countless African-American males and females being gunned down, senseless. Floyd, $20 fraud charge, being killed over $20. Brianna being killed in our home because they had a no-knock warrant. That is why Black Lives Matter. But before I go to that level, that entire spectrum, that whole thing, I have to understand that the person I'm talking to is disconnected. They don't understand Black Lives Matter over White Lives Matter. All lives matter. We didn't say all lives didn't matter. We're focusing on Black lives because of the issues that we've been facing for so long in society. I've heard the blue lives matter too, so you might as well throw that in there too. And I've told people, blue is not a life. That's not a life. That is a profession. You do that like I did, and I'm done with it. We're done. So let's move on from that too. So that was my little 2 cents real quick.
Love it.
Accurate. It's
very accurate.
For me, it's like you said, it's a disconnect, and it's almost an ignorance towards what is relevant. It's so hard to accept the opinion of someone who has very little subject matter. I'm not saying that white lives don't matter, brown lives don't matter. The fact of the matter is we're talking about a specific group of people who have been subject to the ideals and the thinking of another group of people, which disallows them from being treated equally. There's a difference between diversity, inclusion, and, you know what I'm saying? You take an example. Diversity is we're having a dance. Everybody's. Inclusion is you're at the dance and you what me. Well,
Tim, you are cutting out really bad.
Belonging there, the whole belonging there. Can you hear me?
It's choppy, but we can hear you.
Let me see. Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
That's better.
I think so.
Okay. So what I was saying is there's a difference between diversity, inclusion, and belonging. The diversity is being a prom and you being invited. The inclusion is, since you're at prom, I'm going to ask you to dance. The belonging there is being able to be asked to dance and nobody looking at you saying, well, why are they here? To me, that's what the all lives matter is saying. yeah, you matter, but we don't want you talking about it. We'd rather deflect the attention from what has been done to the people who feel like they don't matter than to say, you know what, maybe they're right. Maybe my inability to understand is part of the problem. Maybe the reason they're acting out in a way that is causing them to burn up things because they don't really feel like they own anything anyway. So I'm not burning down my house. I'm not burning down my stores. I'm burning down their stuff. We don't matter anyway. So I can act, and no, I'm not condoning it. However, I think there's a level of understanding that needs to be taught globally on the entire spectrum, which will allow us to understand each other before we can condemn somebody's for actions that are different than ours.
Right.
Right.
Matilda Williams weighs in and says she thinks that the laws have a factor in raising our children as well. So that's a very good, that's a very good statement. So here's a question that comes in from Sean Lane. He says, what are your thoughts on the defunding and reforming of police? This movement is really growing. What are your thoughts on defunding and reforming the police?
I wouldn't deform.
Foolish.
You want to talk about?
I would not, I don't support defunding police. Brooks and I was talking about this earlier. We talked and agreed on allocating. We don't want to defund police, but we would allocate some of those funds toward training, more funds toward training. We need to look at cultural sensitivity training. We need to look at diversity training. We need to be more involved with community policing, well beyond just having a national night out, or community policing well beyond just having meet the chief and have coffee and donut day. You know, so we're looking at not defunding, but maybe allocating more money, not just to our community policing sensitivity, but also mental. We need to do mental illness training. We need to look at that as well. I saw a video of a lady who was clearly mentally ill drive her car in an intersection where officers were there trying to keep protesters out of the intersection. And it one thing led to another. I could tell that she was not in the right frame of mind. And immediately, and I'm not going to go further with that, but mental illness training. So yes, I'm going to say no to defunding police because I know funds are not always there, especially for the small police departments. So not defunding them, but allocating the funds that they do have to other areas, especially community involvement police in the African-American community. And not just come and talk to me on coffee day or national night out. Talk to me. Let's communicate in a way that we have this dialogue so you can understand my fear. And I also may understand your fear. So I wouldn't defund, but I would allocate money in other areas.
Exactly right. Well said.
So Tim, you are working with, I believe you said Watauga Police Department in the crisis management area. So what is your take then about reform and reforming those, because Watauga I know is a really small police force. I know the Watauga area over in Fort Worth. Actually got stopped for a ticket over there a long time ago because of the car that I was driving. So, and he did say I looked suspicious in that area. So that was interesting. But so Tim, what are your thoughts about reforming or defunding the police departments?
I think it would be a bad idea anywhere. I'm talking about in the ISDs, as well as the hospital divisions, as well as local cities. I think it's a bad idea. We are a city of, a land of laws. And if there are if there's no presence to enforce those laws, then who's to decide what laws are legitimate?
And
Who's to
we'll be
decide?
back in the Western days if that
Mhm.
happened.
That's right.
I
And
mean,
It will be worse because
Yes.
population is far greater, the intelligence level is far advanced, and the ability to maintain a weapon, to attain a weapon is is too easy.
Too easy
So
now.
I think that's the worst idea. Yeah, I think it would be the worst idea. To even speak of it, I think is asinine. Like, how do you imagine that public order exists without someone to enforce it?
right.
Now, I also a member of the National Guard. I'm saying, okay, yeah, calling the Guard, but how you gonna stop? They'll rob to. They've been collecting weapons since. What are you gonna do about them?
Uh-oh, I think we've lost you, Tim. Are you there? Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Do you have it?
Uh-huh, we hear you now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, yeah. My son came home, so he's probably on Fortnite or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely agree with the three of you in that defunding is not the answer. And I think I don't know what we need to do, but I don't think just throwing money at it or taking money away from it is an answer. And one of the things that I've talked to Ennis Police Chief, Chief Andy Harvey, and we have, had several conversations. I don't care how much training you give a person, you still don't know a person's heart.
Sure don't.
And people are like tubes of toothpaste. You don't know what's in them until they're squeezed.
Yeah.
And when they are squeezed, that true heart comes out. And so there's not enough training for a person who has an evil heart. I mean, it's just not. They can take the test, pass the test, do the training, all of that. But if their heart is not, and how do you dismiss a police officer? How do you fire a police officer just for having a bad heart? I mean, you know that he's not a good fit for your department, but how do you get rid of those individuals without you yourself putting yourself under scrutiny for discriminating or any other backlash that may come at you? So we're living in a time that we really have to be prayerful. So I have another question from Miss Matilda Williams. She says, when you say defunding, what is your definition? Is that closing it or just reallocation?
I said reallocation. I didn't when I say definition of defunding, I haven't did very much research on this. I'm listening and hearing people talk about it now, like anybody else, like everyone else. When I think defunding, I think of purely what that means, to take money from the police. Where you taking that money from? I don't know. I know that I've looked at some budgets myself, and 75% of your police budget is for personnel. Those are personnel funds. So the other 25% that you do have, it's like saying defunding, taking it from what? I'm gonna be honest with you. We really didn't have nothing to begin with. So when you start talking about defunding, I don't understand where that's gonna come from, because most of that is personnel budget. Now, when I said allocation, that means your training. That means training allocation. You need to put more in your training of police officers. And that also can go, I said community policing is one thing. And I also said, well, I didn't say, but I wanted to add was background checks. Background checks. Yes, Charlotte, we don't know how a person, who they are until we squeeze them. But I bet you there's an ideal in their background for the past 20 years of who that person is. I bet that. So yes, I might not want to wait till I get them in a position where they're squeezed. So yes, our backgrounds are important too. So allocating that money toward those programs. So I don't know about how much defunding you're going to do when 75% is personnel. The rest, I say, allocate, better allocation.
As I'm listening to Chief Harvey, and they're talking about police forces that don't have even the funds to purchase body cams.
Yes.
Which is a major,
Yes.
something that every police force, I think, needs and should be enforced. If you are an officer on duty and your body cam is not on at the appropriate time, I think they need to fire them.
Yeah. And see,
because if it's not on, what are you trying to hide?
To talk about, I mean, when that officer stopped me in Cedar Hill, I went back and I did open records check request to get a copy of his body cam footage, and they told me that his body cam wasn't on. That it was not that it wasn't on, it malfunctioned, is what they told me. It malfunctioned, so I couldn't get a copy of the body cam footage. Okay, so that led me to the next step, and the next step after that, which is something else our people, Black people need to learn how to do, is learn the appropriate steps and then take that complaint forward. We need to start doing that instead of, oh, that pig or that this, that. No, you need to get intelligent with it, start writing, and you need to go to the next level.
Right.
Go to the next level. But as far as defunding and all that, I'm just going to stick with the allocation of funds. But the 25%, and then Charlotte, you spoke on a few minutes ago about body cams. If you have a grant writer or a person that can write those grants in your department, you can get federal funds to buy body cams. You can do that. It's possible. It's just about resources, finding your resources in that department.
Wow. So any other closing thoughts or anything else from you guys before we log off? I think I've gotten all the questions. No. So final closing words to the audience. Those tips again that we need to make sure that we are teaching our sons and even our daughters, because we, sometimes these girls get just as fly as guys, So and I love it. The traffic stop is not the time to have a disagreement.
It's not. That's not court.
At all.
That's not court.
And even though they are choosing to be the judge and the jury on the sidewalk and in the streets and at people's homes, let's us make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a position, and particularly for our children, it's not their job to fight that. It's your job as the parent. So you bring it to your parent, take it to your parents so that parents can do that. But again, traffic stop is not the time to have a disagreement. Survive to talk about it later. I love that. Survive to talk about it later and do what it takes to get home and be polite. We can, there's a scripture that says that a kind word turns away wrath. So that particular officer could be having a very bad day and he didn't leave it at home. But if we do our part, we're not a sellout. We're trying to make it home. We're trying to stay alive. And that's what's more important than anything.
Yes, it is.
Sure.
Well, thank you guys so much for being a part. Officer Brooks, I messed your name up earlier, so I will get it right this time. Officer Brooks, Officer Mosley, and Officer Darrow. Even though you may not be in that line of force or that line of duty right now, but that has been your title, and you have so helped us. I'm getting text messages and saying this was so necessary to have. So I appreciate you guys for really being on here and giving us your insight and your wisdom. Let's do this again. I don't know. We can talk about something else. You guys are good. You guys are good. So come back and talk to me anytime. So again, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Much love to you. Have a great night.
And you too. Good night. We became